Blight by Orpheus, Get Well, Chapter 2. With the arrival of night, the party of 7 had set up camp for the night. Amber had decided that she could trust him well enough, and the Whites and Emerald had figured it was best not to leave her alone in case something happened regarding their family or the complex. It also was apparent that sticking close to Amber might not be a bad idea once they found out exactly what she was. The fact is, they were amazed that others existed that were as powerful as them. All of them wanted to know more about the maidens and about this Ospin prison Amber talked about. I'm curious about the Whites, Amber began as the group sat around a fire. She had a bedroll set up already, though the Whites had no such convenience. How exactly do your abilities work, if I might ask? Utakata looked at her skeptically. Oh, I don't mean to pry. It's just that, as you know, I'm on my way to meet Ospin Vale, and I know you'd all like to meet him as well. You'll have a better understanding of how you can use both aura and nether with such synchronicity, then I'm sure I could pique his interest dramatically more. The sixth white said nothing. Naruto decided to take charge. Amber was beginning to wonder whether it was Utakata or Naruto who was in charge, honestly. How to start? Okay, well, I suppose it's not difficult to understand how we function. Essentially, our tails are an indicator. Gara has one tail, and so he was infused with a single Grim species. Yujito has two, so she was infused with two species. Yagura has three, so he was infused with three, and the way up to me, who was infused with nine, the most out of any white. Each tale not only symbolizes a particular Grim species, but also the abilities of that species. For instance, let's take Juji over there. The blonde woman waved cheerily with a grin as she released her white form, allowing two cattails to materialize. Her first tail is comprised of the nether of Hamlin, who grew stronger the more death there is in the area. Her second is that of a Jinx, those grim whom bad luck seems to follow. She is able to control their individual abilities as if they are simply parts of her semblance. Whenever seemed impressed, Yujito gained a smug grin. All that, and she's the second weakest? Instantly, Yujito deflated. Amber tilted her head at the sudden change in the girl. Am I wrong? I assumed that more tails meant more power. Isn't the reason that Naruto is in charge despite his youth? The Remnant was taking a leap of faith in her assessment, but found it was true when the boy grinned. I was right then. Well, it seems that we're found out. Still, while I am the strongest of a little group, it's not just because I've got most of the nether. At this, the Fall Maiden was genuinely confused. I was infused with 9 of the most terrible species of Grimm. In order to ensure I retained control, I had to have more than enough aura to compensate. Amber widened her eyes as she understood what he said before he even uttered it. Each of the whites, from Gar all the way up to me, have more aura than any one human or faunus is capable of producing naturally. It's because we have more than one natural soul. The additions to our genetics weren't for physical purposes. We were given the aura of other failures, which were added to our own already immense reserves. Because we take on far more aura than we might be reasonably expected to normally hold, our semblances changed. They didn't evolve as semblances usually do. I believe it's better to say we synthesized. All of our aura signatures became as one through a painful process. The shared points overtook the extremities until where we began and where we ended up are completely different. Looking at the whites, Amber began to understand them a bit more. They were actually a dot like her. All the power they had, or that she assumed that they had, came at the cost of the death of others outside of their control. The biggest difference she could find is that while her death would mean a new host, these whites were the only ones who had or would have these powers. It was a lonely lifestyle, being above humanity. The only ones she knew that were even close to her level were the other maidens in Ospen. She just hoped that there was nothing which would place them against her. It was so comforting knowing that there were others like her. She just knew that she'd have to explain giving away her identity at some point or another. The women were surprised as the group stood as one, each brandishing weapons. Scar pulled out a khopesh. Jujito had a short sword. Utakata held a pair of large revolvers. Fu's polearm was brandished with a halberd head, and Naruto held a dagger. Amber noticed, stayed where she was. Amber wondered what they could have sensed. The only thing she felt was, oh, that might be bad. It's alright, you can hold off, he's with me. The whites looked at her. Really, you don't need to worry, trust me. The whites lowered their weapons as a new figure emerged from the tree line. I don't think I've seen anyone react so quickly to a bird before. The speaker was tall with the wavy black hair and a pair of red eyes. He wore a gray buttoned up black collared shirt under a white jacket with black pockets, with a pair of black pants and a tattered red cloak. On his belt, a short sword was sheathed on his left side. I'm actually impressed at your timing as well. So, Amber, why don't you introduce me to your friends? Amber chuckled nervously before sighing. This came even quicker than she thought it would. Well, these are some people I want to introduce to Oz. There's Gara, Fu, Emerald, Yuchito, Utakata, and Naruto. This is Crow. He's my... what's the word? Is he your handler? Naruto wondered as he looked at the way Crow carried himself. He seemed to stand in a way that looked casual, but Naruto noted would allow him to jump in to protect Amber if need be. The two looked at one another at the term. That's what they called the people assigned to us, meant to protect and keep us in line if anything happened. Crow regarded the boy with a bit more interest at the statement. Looking at his eyes, he saw something that made him sincerely hope his nieces never married. I guess you could say that. More importantly, what would cause Amber here to take such an interest in you six? Amber scratched her cheek sheepishly before coughing to get his attention. Well, I think I can explain. Well, that's certainly some story. Crow muttered as Amber finished explaining things to him. The whites were quiet as he thought. I think that Oz will definitely like to meet all of you. I don't know who is responsible for what you described to me, but I think that we need to find out. If someone has the capability of manufacturing beings on par with the maidens, we have a problem. Oh, you won't need to worry about that, Fu stated offhandedly. This caught Crow's attention. We're on our own level to be sure. However, those Draugrs aren't anything to worry about. They're basically humans with animal instincts, grim bone armor, and a semblance. They're far too easy to put down. Crow looked at the girl as if she was insane. What? Did I say something weird? Ospen is going to love every single one of you. Crow muttered with a slight grin. It would be amusing to see how he dealt with them at any case. 3 days later. Oh, Crow, can we do it now? Naruto wondered with incredible enthusiasm. To be perfectly honest, the blonde was starting to remind him of someone else. For all that power, he really was just a kid, wasn't he? That made the whole situation even worse, though. I can feel it. They're so close. Please, I'm so bored. Since they had left camp, the Whites and Amber had agreed to allow Crow to lead them directly back to Vale. It was only a day's travel from here, to be honest. He was growing curious at their abilities. You've been asking for a while, I guess. In an instant, the blonde was in his full white form. Crow had to fight down the urge to immediately attack Naruto. There was so much nether from just the one boy, he almost thought he was in the center of a nest. When he disappeared in a burst of speed to the left, Crow looked at the others. Are you not going to join him? Naruto gets restless when there's nothing to do. I have no desire to get in his way and take this from him. To be perfectly honest, I just like fighting in general, Gara explained. They're grim, yeah. They aren't a human though, so I don't really care. Fu was next. Crow had noted the way the girl eyed him often. It was the same look of distrust he'd expected from Faunus. She was the only one of the whites to give him that look, though, so it shook him a little more than he'd like. What happened to her? What reason do I have to attack them? They have not promised harm to my brothers and sisters. There is little reason for me to hunt a pack of mindless beasts. What if there's a cute little mountain lion in the forest and I accidentally hurt it? Jujito asked, genuinely confused. Crow took a moment, but remembered that they were all experiments. It was likely they were tortured and traumatized as well. He really needed to see about getting a lot of them some therapy. It might do wonders to have specialized help them out. As the others traveled behind Naruto, he found what he was looking for standing on a cliff that overlooked a pack of what appeared to be beowulfs. He grinned. That was, of course, until he saw that they were approaching what appeared to be a lone girl standing on a gravestone. She seemed to be a little younger than him. If her stature and scent was any indication, someone Gara's age, but without his augmentations. There's no way that they could survive against a pack so large, right? Still, it wouldn't do to terrorize such a person. Despite how much he disliked it, he condensed his nether until he lost his tails and jumped from the cliff straight into the snowy mountainside. Dashing forward, the blonde palmed Kurama and held it backhanded. By the time the Beowulf in the rear heard him, Kurama had already torn through its neck and taken the first blood. The blonde felt a shift in the air pressure as his ears twitched and pivoted on his right foot to dodge the crunching jaws of another Beowulf. A crunching elbow drove into the spine of the fending grim before Kurama shifted into Matatabi. Jujito's weapon immobilizing the beast. Matatabi was a short sword with a segmented blade up to the point. One swipe and this beast lost its head as well. Taking a stance, the blonde grinned and swung the weapon. While pulling a trigger on the hilt, the segments clicked and released, showcasing that Matatabi was actually a bladed whip with a spear tip point. With a loud crack, Naruto hit one, two, three, four more targets and watched them explode from the sheer force behind each attack. Holding down the trigger forced the whip to retract, forcing Matatabi's gladius form once more. It was at this time that Naruto noted the appearance of the girl who had slashed through several grim, herself with a red and black scythe that was much larger than her own body. Looking at the weapon, the blonde allowed a grin to turn his lips up. He could feel the excitement running through himself and Kurama. A scythe wielder, that was pretty rare, right? Kurama shifted out of Matatabi and into Chome, using the Persian pen. Three Beowulfs surrounded him in an effort to take him on at the same time. One pounced and received the polar arm through the stomach of its troubles. Slashing upwards, Naruto adjusted his grip closer to the head. As he did so, the butt of the shaft rose up and jabbed at the throat of his next opponent. Kurama shifted again, this time into Saiken. The twin revolvers of Utakata, one shot of fire dust through the injured Beowulf, one of ice dust into the skull of the remaining one. Scarab came next and was immediately in its sickle form as he sidestepped the rushing girl who landed next to him. How's it going, Red? He asked with a grin. It's Ruby, actually. I didn't know anyone else would be over here, she muttered. Naruto, I felt this pack and couldn't help but wanted to fight them. Gripping his scabbard more tightly, he grinned. There's really nothing like risking your life, adrenaline pumping through your veins, don't you agree? You'd get right along with my sister, Yang. Where are you here, anyways? She wondered. I mean, you don't have to be pretty close to sense these guys. They aren't even that old from the looks. I've got a knack for finding trouble. Or maybe it's vice versa. Oh well, in the end, it doesn't matter. As they spoke, the pack was closing in on them. They were hesitant, though, to cause beings of such negative emotions to feel fear was truly satisfying. As the Grim grew more terrified, Naruto could feel it. He relished on their feelings. For a while, they gained the Grimm's ability to sense negative emotions. Not only that, but each of them were able to feed on these same emotions. They grew stronger for it as well. The more negativity in the area, regardless of the source, the more powerful they became. Well, I guess we'll have to get out of this, won't we? Are you ready? He grinned madly while she gave her own smile. With a nod, they sprang into action, jumping into the opposite sides of the throng. The two teens acted quickly, while Ruby zipped around as if she weighed nothing, carrying around her heavy scythe to crush and slash. Naruto took a different approach. Each beowulf that came across him found a different end. Scarab fired in its Kusarigama form to tear several apart. Chomei ripped through the bodies of Grim in partisan and halberd form. Shukaku would slash or fire through the lupine enemies. Saiken riddled the holes with its dust ammunition. Matatabi ripped the bodies apart as they scattered into dust. Each attack became a combo as Kurama constantly shifted form under the weight of Grim in the area. Finally, there was but one Beowulf left extant. Naruto grinned and rushed forward, using his massive aura to force him forward faster than he normally could. He felt Kurama shift back into its base form. A dagger ripped through its neck the same time the ruby crashed down. Her weapon had shifted into a war scythe with the blade pointed upwards, with some sort of polearm. Spinning as she let gravity take her, she had sliced through its torso. The same moment that he beheaded the beast, dust exploded between the blows as the wolf became nothing more than a cloud of nether, gathering in the winter wind. That was so fun! Naruto exclaimed as he sheathed Kurama. And that scythe is pretty cool, Red. Where'd you learn how to use it? Ruby beamed at the compliment from the stranger she just fought Grim with. My uncle taught me how to use it. I actually used to be trash before he took me under his wing. Now I'm like, kacha, wah, wah, ha. To emphasize her point, she made karate poses with each noise. This only served to make Naruto grin. Crescent Rose is pretty great. That was that you were using, though. It looked like you had a different weapon every hit. Naruto unsheathed his dagger, showing it to her. Well, this is Kurama. It's filled with nether, the energy of the Grim. Well, of a specific Grim. It can change into the shape of any weapon it's touched before, just like that Grim could change shape into any Grim it's killed before. The Nether has made it almost alive, I guess. Well, I can control what it turns into sometimes. It decides what it wants to be, and I just use that. Ruby eyes were filled with stars as she regarded a new weapon she'd never met before. Who taught you to use Crescent Rose, though? It's probably someone pretty powerful, right? Oh, that's easy. It's my Uncle Kurt. That would be me, right? Naruto grinned as he saw Crow, Amber, and his siblings approaching. He stood proudly on the snow, which was now filled with more black powder than white. "Hey, Squirt! Uncle Crow! What are you doing here?" And she wondered as she rushed forward in a cloud of rose petals. "Did you miss me? Did you miss me?" Ruby could now be found glomping her uncle, who grinned and patted her head. "Nope." After a bit, he looked at Naruto, then back at Ruby. "Well, I was taking some people, including Naruto, here to see Professor Osmond at Beacon. They've got a pretty interesting story, and I thought he'd enjoy talking to them." Ruby looked back at the blonde who waved. "Are you a huntsman?" She wondered. He chuckled in response. "No, not quite. Though the thought isn't so bad. Saving people with my powers from the Grim. I wonder what that would be like." He grinned. "Well, we'll see. I don't know if I could ever do anything like that, though. I'm just good for killing after all." Ruby didn't get what he was talking about, but she didn't like how he referred to himself. "Well, I'm going to be a huntress so I can help people who need it. You helped me out here, so I think you'd be a great huntsman. Oh, we could even be on the same team and everything. How does that sound?" The ninth white smiled at how naive the girl was, but found that it wasn't so bad to have someone like that around. She had a pure, innocent smile. Maybe there was something worth protecting in this world after all. This innocence was something that was opposite to the complex. Yeah, that was an idea.